If you attempt to leave the vehicle without my permission, you will die. If you don't do exactly what I tell you, exactly when I tell you to do it, you will die. It is absolutely essential to the safety of you and others that you accept that you have no control in what happens from here on out. Do you comply?
It's been a minute since we talked about Tom Patons and what director Tom Patons has been up to, and I know a lot of you are wondering, Kev, what's Tom Patons up to? What's he doing now? I mean, I think the last time I spoke about him was maybe Assailant, the Casper Van Dien movie, which everybody loved. Obviously, you know, G-Lock is stat there. Awesome. Still needs to be signed. Tom, still need that signed. It turns out, Tom's been a busy little rascal. But first of all, my name is Kevin Halden. This is Nerdly Out Loud, the official channel of nerdly.co.uk, your favourite British home for all of your news, reviews and exclusive interviews. We like to cover everything from the big budget to the low budget to the no budget, with a special keen interest on the lower end of the scale. That's my passion. It's where my heart lives. It's where it lies. We've done a little bit of wrestling. We've done some games. We've done movies, obviously. We do lots of movies. And today I'm going to be talking about podcasts. More specifically, AI podcasts, which I know is a hot topic right now and people are really getting vexed in certain ways. But we're not going to get involved in the politics of it all. We're not going to be doing that. I just want to tell you about what Tom is up to, because I kind of love it. I'm kind of really into it, and I think you need to hear about it. So what Tom's done is he's created a new studio called Pigeon Shrine. It's kind of like how with the film label, back in the day, he was doing like this whole thing where it was like, we're going to apply the record label to the film, like kind of make it the industry standard. So Tom likes to do things like that. And we know that, we love that. It's what I like about him. It's how he keeps busy. He levels up with the movies, he levels up with everything he does. And this is like a whole nother bag that dude's getting into, and I can't wait to see where this goes down the line. We have two products right now that I can talk to you about and we can get into. How best to describe this? So he's got a team together. He's got Max Sweary from, he's scored every one of Tom's movies, I believe. I think it's like every one of them. I fell in love with his Pandorica score all those years ago. Still listen to it on my iPhone. It's still there. I just think it's a great little soundtrack. You can vibe to it. It's mental. So Max is there, and he's kind of like doing all the sound and sound design and things like that on these projects. So far, there's two podcasts. We will talk about them in a second, but I just need to give you a little bit of a world-building experience, if you will. Nicole Bartlett, who is his screenwriting partner, she kind of came on board a few years back with Tom, and they've been working together ever since, and now they're working together on Pigeon Shrine. Obviously, you've got Alvin Adams, who's come back from the days of Black Site and whatnot. It's always great to see Alvin's name all over these things. Steve Mosley, it's Mosley Studios again. He's kind of involved with this as well. And then you've got my boy, Mark Woodyat, who used to host the Skip to the End, has his own Mark and Me podcast. Check all that good stuff out as well. We love Mark. I've kind of been on and off talking with Mark for years now, so it's great to see him involved in this as well. I'm finding it really hard to figure out how to talk about this, because I know it's going to like vex some people, but I really want to let people know what it's about. Pigeon Shrine is using AI synthesized kind of voices, scores, things like that. They're doing a whole range of things through AI. So they're making these podcasts, which is like a table read. Now, you'll have heard podcasts before that do table read, but usually it's a bunch of actors sitting around the table or sitting in their booths, reciting the lines, and then it gets edited together later on. Usually it's a lot of that. This is different because the actors are AI. Technically, there are no actors, but there are, because you get a real sense of these characters through the AI. And that's one of the things that's really surprised me about this, is the fact that you can get a sense of who these people are. You get a sense of their emotion. That's scary. That is scary. Like, I sat and listened to both of these podcasts so far, and the first one, like, it really did Canopsia. It's like a horror thriller, little bit of Tom likes to do Cthulhu kind of things, and he likes to take things otherworldly, parallel dimensions, things like that. There's a taste of all of those different things in there. You've got your main characters, and you've got the narrator. So the narrator's kind of like the crypt keeper, and he's kind of bringing you into the stories, going to tell you what's going on. And so, like, you know, when you're reading a script, I know not everybody reads scripts, but when you're reading a script and it says like Gotham Library, exterior, day, like, that's what the narrator's going to do. He's going to set the scene for you, and then when there's action, he's going to give you the action so that you kind of know and you can visualize in your head what is going on. So the narrator's pretty cool, but the thing about the narrator really kind of does bug me is that he super is able to change his voice with the acting, and you kind of just expect when it's going to be an AI character, it's just going to be like, hi, this is Canopsia. And it's not like that. Like, it peaks and troughs. When it's exciting, his voice gets a little bit animated, not too much, but just enough to kind of like let you know that there's some shit going down. But what I will say is Canopsia as a 4-part series, it was a 4-part series. You can get it on iTunes, Spotify, all those good places that you can get all of your podcasts and things like that. So why should you listen to it? Why should you listen to it? Even for the morbidly curious who, you know, turn around and like, I don't like all this AI stuff. And let me say for one, I'm not 100% completely sold on AI. I can see, you know, it's Skynet. It's Tom watches movies, sci-fi movies. So he's creating Skynet right now. And that to me, did you learn nothing? Did you learn nothing at school? When you were watching these movies, did you learn nothing? Skynet, dude, you're bringing Skynet. So yeah, the 2 stories so far. Canopsia is like a horror thriller, sort of all these different things going on. I don't want to spoil anything about either of these stories. I'm going to talk a little bit more about the second one because my mind is just blown by it. So obviously, as I said, I'm kind of just jumping around, flip-flopping, jumping around here. You're just going to have to get on board with it and listen to it. They're building this world, they're building this universe, and I don't think I've heard anything like this before, which kind of leads itself into me actually liking the AI aspect of it. That's probably going to offend people, it's probably going to piss people off, but I really like what they've done here. I like the fact that it works, and within about 10 minutes of the first episode, definitely by the time you get to the 4th episode of the first series, you kind of just forget that these people aren't real because they sound real. They make me feel real feelings, and they're kind of like, there's passion to the voices, there's fear to the voices, it's mad. It's absolutely mad. And as much as I love Tom, when he first told me what he was doing here, I was kind of like, yeah, man, I'll check out anything you do, Tom. I'll listen to it. But in the back of my head, I'm like, what's this going to sound like? What is this going to sound like? Let me tell you, it sounds absolutely friggin' awesome. So you had Canopsia. That was the first. You also have the second story that they've now brought called Compliant. A couple of years ago, I think it was a couple of years ago now, Tom asked me if I wanted to check out a script that he'd written. And that script was called Compliant. And I loved it. Like, I sat and read this thing in about half an hour to an hour. I just sat and read through this thing, and I was hooked. Had this kind of like phone booth vibe, but at the same time, it was very of the moment. Now, I read this roughly when lockdown was kind of going on, or we were coming out of it, so there's a lot of that social meta commentary in there if you're willing to see it. And even on the page, it had me going. Like, I'm just like, man, I can't wait to see him make this. Very few characters, not a lot of characters, a lot for a podcast made by AI, of course, but not a lot of characters. So I'm kind of like, I can't wait to see what you do with this. And I've also seen the likes of 400 Bullets when he does have a small cast, Pandorica when he has a small cast, Stairs when he has a small tight-knit cast. And I love when Tom does that. So this one really for me had me really kind of like my mind was racing. And then he turns around and he says, you know what, man? I'm doing Pigeon Shrine right now. We're making these AI podcasts. We're doing all that. And the next one's Compliant. And I was like, I wanted to see Tom make this movie. Like, I'd already kind of, knowing the pool of people that he likes to draw from, I'd already started casting who Tom would use. And I was just like super into it. And I was like, give me this movie. Give me this movie. And then he says he's done it with this AI podcast project that he's doing. I'm a little bit hesitant, but I'm on board for the ride. Canopsia was excellent. Really blew me away. But Compliant absolutely blew my mind. It's flawless. It's pretty much a masterpiece. Because my emotion and my feeling when I listened to the entire Compliant, and I listened to all 4 episodes back to back to back. Like, it's only about an hour and 50, 2 hours. So I listened to it all in one sitting, and I couldn't wait. Every time it finished, I couldn't wait to get on to that next episode, get on to see what's going on. And you know what? Everything I thought when I read it back in the day, and everything I heard in my head, characters' voices, the actions, the fighting. There's a lot of fighting in this, which for a podcast is pretty cool. Everything that I thought of in my head was this. It was exactly this. The AI characters sounded how I thought the actors should sound. The score is wonderful. I mean, it's Max, so it's always gonna be. There's little bits of sound in there, little bits of Foley effects. Look at me using terms like Foley effects, But yeah, there's little things in there, like clicks of guns. Like, that scene in Phone Booth when Kiefer's on the other end of the phone. Spoilers if you haven't seen it, it's Kiefer Sutherland all along. So, but it goes quiet and he cocks the gun and he's like, isn't that the greatest sound ever? You have moments like that in Compliant. I will say that, I'm sold. I'm kind of sold on this whole project now. I can't wait to see what they do next. For me, how do you beat this one? Because this one in particular, I don't know if it's just the added aspect of, I read it a few years back, but all of a sudden they've created this podcast that actually sounds how it played out in my head. It actually sounds how I thought that. It's brilliant how they did it. It's absolutely brilliant. But yeah, this is the project that they're doing. Anybody involved, everybody involved. There are markets, there are niches, there are genres. There's enough room out there to push your niche. There's enough room out there to push your project. Everybody wants content. We live in a content age. And it doesn't matter how the content's getting made for me. Obviously, don't get me wrong. If I go and watch the new Mission Impossible, and they've just AI'd Tom Cruise into the movie because, I don't know, he died 10 years ago. Don't ever die, Tom. Don't ever die. Cruise, that is. Peyton as well. God, that went dark. But yeah, if I ever see an AI Tom Cruise in a movie, I'm out. I'm totally out. Because at that point, it's not Tom Cruise. It's animation. It's CGI. It's visual effects. It's not Tom Cruise anymore. So I will be sucked out of the movie. And I'll say that about any actor, anytime they do stuff like that. I know, I think it was Nicolas Cage or John Travolta or someone said that they'd sold his likeness to some AI company so they could, keep churning out Nicolas Cage movies. Let's be honest, it won't make much of a difference to the shit he's making right now anyway. But when that happens, I won't be as on board with that. But that's not this. This is different, They are creating characters. I would quite like to hear another story, another set of episodes with some of these characters. Knowing Tom, as I do, this will become a Pattonverse. I'm sure of it. You even had in Canopsia, they listened to this training video, and it's basically the Dharma videos from Lost back in the day. And if you've seen Blacksite, they do the same thing with Toby Osmond and plays Dr. Kellerman. And of course, the first thing I thought was, that's exactly like Blacksite, it's exactly like Lost. And then you realise that actually, it's the same doctor. It's Dr. Kellerman from Blacksite is doing the Canopsia training video. I hope that's not a spoiler, but you know what? That's part of the Pattonverse. And I know there's going to be more of that as we go forward. So give me some of these characters coming back, build your little world, build your verse. I can't wait for it. I want to see more. I want to hear more. And if it goes into actual movies, which I believe is the plan, we'll see how that goes. We'll see how it goes. I'm willing to give it a go. I really want to give it everything a try. You know what? You got half an hour to kill, but you don't really want to listen to two guys talking about movies on a podcast. You want to listen to something a little bit more dramatic? There you go. The Table Read. Pigeon Shrine. The Table Read. Canopsia compliant. I'm just saying words now. I realise this. But absolutely give them both a listen. They are getting released like week to week to week. You can subscribe on iTunes for like $3.99 or something like that. And then you get all the episodes straight away, which is cool. That's what I did for Compliant because I knew I was going to be into it. And honestly, I can't tell you how much they nailed on everything that I heard in my head when I read that script. They nailed it on. But yes, so this was a little bit different. We're not talking movies here. We're not talking games here. We're not talking wrestling here. We're talking about a podcast. A podcast that I rate and I want people to check it out. I think Nerdly should definitely be helping push this because it's different. It's different, but it's art. It's independent. And I think it's got a space. It's definitely got a space out there. I've never heard anything like this before. I've heard table reads before. I've heard table read podcasts before. I listened to audio dramas before. But I've not really heard anything like this. And I buy these characters. And I buy this world. And once you buy things like that, and you're wholly in, you're wholly involved, then you've done a great job. Because I'm hard to please. I'm very hard to please. Everyone knows that. Yeah, Pigeon Shrine Studios, Pigeon Shrine Presents. Check them out. I know they've done a big sponsorship deal with Fright Fest this year, which is absolutely amazing. They're like the headline sponsor, which is unbelievable. I think there might be some interesting conversations at Fright Fest about that, but I'm on board. Again, if you can't get on board with this for what it is and enjoy it for what it is, then it's you that has the problem, really. I get the argument when it comes to TV shows and movies and all that kind of stuff. I get that, and that's a completely different conversation. That's not this conversation. This conversation is its own thing. Keep it away from that. I'm happy with it. Please do check out Pigeon Shrine, check out the table read, get yourself on iTunes, all that good stuff. Listen to Compliant. Compliant is genius. It's gorgeous, it's effortless, and it's sexy as hell. With that, I'm going to go. My name has been Kevin Halden. This is Nerdly Out Loud, the official channel of nerdly.co.uk, your favourite British home for all your news, reviews, and exclusive interviews. We like to cover everything from the big budget to the low budget to the no budget. And let me ask you one more thing. Are you going to listen to Pigeon Shrine podcasts? Will you comply? I'm out.